So, hello everybody. It's good to be here with you today. And I've got one of my absolute amazing, super successful clients, Theresa Montoya, with us. And as you all know, I'm sharing a series of client interviews in order to really help you all get a sense from somebody else besides me about the kind of outcomes, the kind of experience that you can have in our program and the kind of the kind of results. And we get so many questions sent to us through different, you guys contact us, you make comments, send us emails, and there's so many different questions, and there's a lot to answer about what goes on in what we do. And I find that even when I myself or my team responds, it's still sort of at times it's like to get across the magic of what happens is, people kind of think that I sound crazy. They think it's too good to be true. And so I really wanted to have I wanted to introduce Theresa to everybody, and because she's done such an amazing job in the program, and she really represents somebody. Theresa, you really represent somebody that really attacked your transformation, like really just committed to your transformation in such a way and applied yourself and Theresa's like, I've got to tell you, I had so much fun. It's like a crime to get to hang out with her. It's so fun that, this is just a dream come true. And then to have the program work for her and work in ways that is just, I could never describe it. And when I do, people do think that I am out of my mind. So I look forward to having, go through a series of questions with Theresa today, and let her tell the story for herself about her experience and what you all might be able to experience yourselves. So welcome, Theresa. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, Theresa, just tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
So I am a mother and a wife and self-employed. I've ran a business for about 25 years now. And I came across your program, Dr.T, by my Facebook page. It was just a interesting thing. It just all of a sudden came up at a time when I was thinking about, am I going to live this way for the rest of my life? Wanting to make some changes in my life, not sure how I was going to go about doing that. Many of the methods that I had tried had not worked, and so I came across this video that was like a live chat to watched you, and here I am.
Love it. Now, yeah, Theresa, so what were some of the things that you were not either not happy with in your life, or happy about the progress you'd made in other things, or the things that were really the most on your mind and heart that you wanted to change for yourself? And I know you've been working on that for a while. What were those things that really were propelling you forward?
Right. So the thing that I came to you for initially was to lose weight. I had tried every method out there, with the exception of surgery.
Yeah.
So I had been to all kinds of programs, had tried hypnosis, had been to counseling, had went to every kind of, weight loss program, without naming names, everything that's out there that is a group type format, or a particular food to eat, for certain. And I just wasn't successful with any of those programs for myself. I could lose a little bit, but I could never maintain it. And I always felt deprived. Yeah. It just wasn't working. So I was frustrated with where I was at in that aspect of my life, and very unhappy with that. I was not satisfied, but I sort of just had given up, thinking, oh, this is, my challenge in life. I'm just going to have to deal with this forever. But knowing that was very heavy, it weighed very heavy on me, not just the weight on my body, but heavy on my mind, because I never fully enjoyed things, and things I've shared with you is I was self-conscious and I was uncomfortable in my clothes, and I would not go to events because I wasn't sure what I was going to wear, and all those things. It just became such a burden to me that I found my box getting smaller and smaller of what I was, I was basically building a box around myself. I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to enjoy this because I just can't deal with that. Like, I'm not going to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's been something that I was just not successful with on my own and very frustrated. And so, I watched the video with you and still was apprehensive, as you know, about jumping in. I was extremely apprehensive. I still didn't want to jump in. I thought, I cannot fail at another thing. I just can't. I cannot let my mind go through another thing that I fail. But it hasn't turned out that way.
Theresa, you're speaking to, right, these things that I had gone through in my life as well, where no matter how successful I was as a person, and so many of our clients, so many of my girlfriends, maybe most women, who have this relationship with their body and their weight. And so it really speaks to that, as you said, that's just sort of like, I remember talking to Theresa about this, and it ends up being this entire scope of your life, even though you're doing all these other things, this weight of the weight of the weight, right? And all of it's just there, and it just creates this framework. And I can remember you saying it, but like from the moment you get out of bed, like that dialogue, that whole thing just got set in motion. It had been there for a very long time. So for people that can relate to that, where you're in this experience that there's always something there that is nagging at you, and knowing that you want to change it, but you haven't been able to. And then, as Theresa's saying, then what happens is just like what happened for her, is you subconsciously just start building, you end up having a life that begins to build over time, slowly, quickly, depends on the person. It just builds around that struggle, right? So all of a sudden your life is that struggle. So Theresa, say more about like not wanting to be disappointed, and why, that skepticism, and why do you think things had not worked for you before? Like, knowing, I remember the list of things that you tried. Why do you think those things had not worked?
Well, I think that those things did not, because I had some underlying things going on within me. I had some underlying beliefs. I had some patterns. I had some things that needed to be looked at and identified and changed. So I came into it with one set of beliefs, and one set of, which also was the belief that, weight loss was hard. I had that belief in it. Weight loss is going to be really hard. This is super challenging. I don't believe that anymore, by the way. But I had those beliefs that this is going to be really hard. I may get to a certain point and then it's going to stop, because that was my history. I mean, I had done that over and over. It's what I had learned over time. I had family members that were heavy and overweight, and they also were, it was just sort of like, this is in your genetics, this is what this is just how we're built. And in the back of my mind, being what I think is considered, reasonably intelligent woman, I thought, well, dang, there's got to be a way to change this. Right. I mean, I don't necessarily buy all that, but I wasn't figuring out, how I could do it differently. So the things that changed with me were basically mindset changes, and building. The biggest thing was building a relationship with myself, which I didn't even know was a thing that existed, and like figuring out, who I am as a person, what I want, what I like, building that relationship very solidly and strongly for the first time in my life, that I was able to take control of myself in a way that I've never really had. Like, I self-medicate with food. I just did. It was like my coping strategy. I didn't feel like I had any other way. Like, if things were really stressful, I was like eating my way out of it, So, which sort of, it puts a Band-Aid on the problem, but it doesn't ever get to like, dealing with it and figuring out where it's coming from, and using the tools and the mindset that I have today. That I have not done that since week 2 of my program.
Yep.
So
yep.
That's all gone away. It's not even part of who I am, which I thought that was in my makeup, if you will. it's not even in existence anymore. And so how that, you know, was able to be dissolved, those beliefs and those feelings and those thoughts, was doing the work, you know, like building a relationship with myself, looking at everything, looking at those underlying patterns, those behaviors, the beliefs, all of it that got me to where I was. I'm a woman in my mid 50s, going through some things, you know, change what, you know, different things going on with my body. I no longer believe any of that, you know, like the things that like people were sort of conditioned to believe, oh, you're in your 50s, you're going to gain weight now. It's not happening.
Yeah. No, I love this.
Yeah. So
I love
it's
it.
just, yeah.
I love it. So Theresa, so I'm going to come back to some of what you've just been sharing, but I want to, that concept of having been disappointed, and, you know, we have people book calls with us to inquire, right? They go beyond the step, but they book call, and sometimes they don't show up, and, or they'll ask, again, you'll all ask us a lot of questions, and then I know you want to take that step and you don't take that step. And so Theresa, what was it that, even though you felt like you'd been disappointed by, because this is a theme we hear all the time, been disappointed by things before, and if I knew what was going on, is that you didn't want to, it's a protective strategy so that we can hold ourselves in a higher identity and at least preserve our dignity, right? About protecting ourselves from stuff that, if we've never seen a framework of something not working, we'd have no sense of it. But what do you think it was that just had you go ahead and say, okay, this is probably not going to be anything, but I'm going to step up and give myself an opportunity to see what it is?
I felt I was very on the fence. You know this. I actually set up I scheduled a meeting to like have a consultation and said, I'm not going to do this. Yeah. Like, this is something else that I'm going to spend my time on, and it's not going to work. And there goes another, you know, time, you know, hour out of my day, and it's not going to work. I'm super busy. I need to be focusing on my other aspects of my life and things that I can control and have been very successful at. I just decided there was something in me that said, you need to take another chance. You need to take a leap of faith, and you need to do this. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. Like, I mean, this was my dialogue in my head. If it doesn't work, it's okay. You've given a shot. This is something different. It's something completely new to what you've done before. This is not like anything I've ever done. I just needed to like jump in. And what I had said to myself is jump in, do it with 100% effort. Like, no on the fence, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. I completely committed myself at that point because I really wanted to take a chance on me. I wanted my life back. Yeah, there it is. I wanted to wake up happy. You spoke about that, and I've talked about that with you, about that dialogue that went through my head in the morning was, there's got to be more to life than this. Like, I was successful in every area but this weight issue, and I was gone, frustrated, and just wanting it to end. And so that motivation in me, like wanting a better life for myself, I thought, if I don't take this chance and don't, you know, really commit to it, I may never be able to figure this out. And I just didn't want to give up on myself. I just didn't want to give up on myself. I wanted something to work.
I love
so,
this. Yeah, so
that was sound and reasonable, and you know, so that's why I decided to do it.
Theresa, thank you for speaking to that, because for everybody that, you know, again, we talk to people all the time. I know you've gone to the therapy, you got your primary care doctor, you've got all the different things that you've done. You've tried every diet, every type of recovery. You know, it's amazing at a certain point when people have emotional or struggles, or that end up in behavioral issues, and it's just a myriad of issues that develop over time. You know, you can end up slowly but surely gaining this entire, as Theresa was saying before, about like the box, but then you create this infrastructure of things that you've done or you're doing to try to fix everything. And that can feel like, you know, I've done it all. That's a lot of stuff. And it's like one more thing, or, you know, can something really work? And And when something's different, right? This is a paradigm shift that's changing in our world now about people taking total ownership of themselves and their way of being able to be in the world and their health. And so you're speaking to something really important, which is no matter what has happened, no matter what, if you are still somebody that is like, I'm not okay living my life without that feeling, that capacity that I know I want, something's not there. And I love that, Teresa, that you really, even though I don't like all the stuff that goes with potentially trying something, it's that there was more of a drive to have the life that you wanted than there was to be like protecting yourself. And so you went forth with that drive for what you wanted, to give yourself that opportunity. So that's important for everybody to have that sense of, right? That because the other way, there's no chance. And if you can allow yourself to at least see what's possible, then you actually have a chance. So that part of you needs to lead, your life either way, whatever you do, lead your life that way. So Teresa, thanks for that piece, because that really speaks to what so many people are feeling. And so Teresa, what would you say? You said that the number one goal you had was weight loss, but it was also, if I understand, like it was really about releasing, just eliminating the lifestyle of even needing to focus on it at all, right? Can you say more about you had that goal, but I think right when we got started, we realized your goal was more than that. So can you speak a little bit more to that?
Right. My goal was to, wake up like excited about the day. My goal was to like show up in my life and enjoy it. I had worked hard in every aspect. I am very fortunate. I have, a wonderful husband and this awesome son, but I wasn't fully present ever. I was always thinking about what I had to do and where I needed to be. And so there was all this underlying baggage, if you will, that was just sort of keeping me in that box, keeping me sort of like, I go through the motions of the day and I get through the day, but I'm not really enjoying it. And I'm not, those moments of like joy were very fleeting, if you will. Yeah. And I was missing out on a ton of my life. And I see that now because I'm not there anymore. And I realized, there were so many other things. I mean, I say I came into this program for weight loss, but I don't even think about the weight loss anymore. I mean, it's the weight is dissolving off my body, but I think about, oh my gosh, like all the other benefits that I received as a result of sort of, just transforming myself, of letting go of that old stuff, building a relationship with myself, taking control of many areas of my life that I just were sort of, I pick and choose what I wanted to, handle. And for example, my husband always did all the finances, and, I ran a business and was very successful in that area and could take care of myself in that arena. But I just didn't want to think about, a lot of that. And I was really, not showing up as an emotional adult. And I just wanted to give it away, make it go away, somebody else deal with it, right? Now I feel like a zest for all that. I actually, I'm in a much better position. I feel like, and the crazy thing is, I always thought I had no time for any of this, like no time to like deal with this, no time to deal with that, and whatever. Now I find that I show up very present. I have time to take care of everything, including myself, and everything isn't so compartmentalized. My life is a whole entity. It's a whole picture. It's a whole, wonderful bundle of energy, if you will. Yeah. And so my whole life is very, it's all interrelated. It's not compartmentalized, if you will. Like I had this I'm good at, and this I'm good at, and this I don't want to deal with, and that I don't want to deal with. Now I deal with it all, and I have all the energy to deal with it all, and I feel very good in that way. And it's not about it is about being in control, but it's not about control in that sense of in a negative way. It's about being in control of just having the knowledge and being like treating myself well and taking good care of me has to do with that control, not so much, the control as we typically think about it.
It's that's the self-leadership piece, that you feel that
exactly.
that foundation in you, so that when you attend to something, you're leading yourself through it in this way that just applies yourself to stuff, versus but you're in charge of yourself, so then you don't need to be in control of things. You just impact them. Right. So
yeah, exactly.
So, and Teresa, you spoke to something really important as well, because for a long time, just, I would have different people say to me, like, you have to really define exactly who this is for. And I really struggled so much with that at times, because my truth, and I ultimately had to just begin to live my truth even more about it, was that it is for everyone. It is really, so whether it is, just because I've worked with every type of emotional or behavioral issue, every type of emotional like condition, something like depression, anxiety, behavioral disorders like substance addictions and food addictions and people addictions, and the truth was, because we're working on the foundational level of a person, Theresa has one entry. I like to say everybody has a different entry point, but the root issues and the way we fix them at the root are universal. So I will say clients will have an entry point that says, I'm struggling in all my relationships, especially my romantic relationship, and that's where I need to grow. Someone will say, again, I have been on every diet in the world and I want freedom from that. It can be, right, I've been using substances and food and people pleasing, or it can be anything that is a pattern of emotional experiences we don't want, and they're correlating behaviors that just develop over time that create unintended outcomes from all of your powerful creative abilities. So whether it's somebody, borderline personality, whatever, and these are just the constellations of things that develop through the things that we do, that we work on in the program, that aren't there for people. So I want everybody to recognize that it really is truly, if there are emotional issues that don't work for you, that you don't like and want in your life anymore, and any types of behaviors that you're doing or not being able to get yourself to do, your entry point doesn't really matter. This is a process that is about building an emotional foundation that then, as Teresa's saying, you don't have to be in control of things, because her emotional foundation just takes care of the stuff that she needs to do. Then it doesn't make it super eventful. Is that right, Teresa? Like, things aren't as eventful. They're just, right. So I really wanted to touch on this important thing that Teresa brought up. So Teresa, share about your experience in doing the program itself. How was that for you?
So my experience was, I thought it was really good. I thought of it as being, I was taking a course, if you will. And so we have, modules in the program, and you listen to the modules, and then there is homework associated with the modules, and a lot of self-reflection, and figuring out you in particular and each of those individuals. And so I, went through those modules. I made sure that I put time into those modules every day, so that I set up time so that was a priority. And I think that's a very important aspect of anything that you're going to, try to like to be able to set aside the time and actually put in the time because you're worth it, and not because it's another thing to do. Right. So I really made that one of my priorities, and that was like, this is what I'm gonna do. So every day I would do a module and do my homework, and some weeks there weren't as many as others. Some weeks it's a little bit longer than others, depending on the aspect that we're on at the time. And so I would just go through those modules. I learned a ton of information about myself that I had no idea, and also just how I came to be with that set of beliefs and thoughts and patterns, and what I was doing at the time was so enlightening to me, because you can't really change, in my mind, you can't really change what you don't acknowledge or see or even uncover, if you will. So that was all an important aspect, is, doing the work. And then, as you know, there are calls that you participate in and you learn from other people, you share, you get guidance that way. You're looking at your life in every aspect possible, from health to finances to relationships to, if you have an intimate relationship with someone, to, every aspect of how you live is looked at in this program. And you're identifying. And I remember some weeks thinking, oh, I don't really need to look at that, like I'll do it because it's part of the work, but I'm pretty happy in that area. Oh my gosh, it was like life-changing in that area too. Like, for one example, my relationship with my husband, it's just been absolutely amazing. My husband and I have been together for 26 years, and, we were in a nice little routine of, we obviously knew each other very well, and we were in this great little routine. But I wish I had a video of us like months ago and today, because today it's completely different. Even my husband says, I have a new improved wife, and he's showing up differently just because of how I interact with him and how I am, showing up in that aspect of who I am as a person is very, is how I live my life. Who I am as a person is how I live my life. I think that's super important. Like, not living our life based on other expectations and, all of the things that go with that, but showing us who you are. And it's just been amazing. Like, we've spent more time together. We've done new experiences together. We have just a deeper connection together, and just so much fun. That part is just unbelievable. So I always think, I showed up to like lose some weight, and I got like a whole new life, really. And that part was very exciting. It was super exciting. And my son's away at college. I went to visit him 3 weeks ago. He said, Mom, you're really different. Aww. Like, in the best way possible.
I love it.
And I said, what do you mean, son? Like, how do you mean? Because he obviously knows I've been involved in, this program as well. But he said, you're just really calm. You're very present. You're very, you don't say things that would be like things that would make him put him guard, and the way that he shows up. It's the way you show up also has its ripple effect.
Huge. With
how you interact with other people. And so he was noticing that, and some things, that my husband has said as well, like, it has a ripple effect on other people. So you find these people you were looking at one way with like sort of a gray lens every day. It's like all of a sudden you're noticing new things about them as well. And like, just all those things you got sort of get magnified, if you. And that part is fabulous. It's amazing.
What Teresa's speaking, thank you, Theresa, what you're speaking to, I'm so glad that you're articulating it, because even when I hear things come out of my mouth to people about not only what's going to happen with the very direct things that they want to change, which I always call, like, I think of it as their entry point into the transformation, right? That thing that really drove them there. But to help everybody understand that when you are changing your entire emotional foundation and strengthening yourself, especially our clients are very driven but very sensitive people who can feel everything in the world, so they can feel affected, by life and things outside themselves. So when we're combining that beautiful sensitivity, this intuitive nature of our clients, and then strengthening them so that they can just be connected, they have all that emotional strength, self-connection, and then they can be connected to everyone else. Because this is your everything, right? So when I'm saying to everybody, this will really impact everything in your life, including just an infinite impact, because this is an infinite process that's now going to reverberate on, but an infinite impact on everything, including your financial life. And all of a sudden the person that's checking you out in the grocery store will start to say language that it is like that you all learned in the program, right? Theresa, have you seen that yet? Like, right? It's just, this is your frequency now, and it just keeps nourishing you. And then it's got the opposite of the weakening effect, right, of having been sensitive to these things, weakening, and then protecting ourselves. Theresa's really speaking to the extensive application of who we are as a person. There's nothing that we aren't impacting all the time. So I'm so glad to know that, Theresa, because this is what really makes it fun. But you can all imagine that for me to put this like on a website, for over years, people just like, no, you have to define it down to the exact results. And if I really say what it is, it's like your everything is going to be elevated as a person.
Right. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Yes. So Theresa, how quickly do you feel like you started feeling results, and what was also surprising about, how quickly, and just about the progression of going through the program and how you felt that?
So how quickly? So the program is like 12 weeks long, and it was week 2 for me. So I felt completely changed, if you will, for the better. Week 2, my mindset was different. Week 2, like how I was thinking about things, how I started showing up in various aspects of my life, every aspect of my life. What I considered, I like that word that you use, nourishing of yourself, because all aspects of our life can nourish us, and they do now. And that started happening week 2, because once you change your mindset, and once you get in that place of building a relationship with yourself, showing up as an emotional adult, and taking charge of all areas of your life, you begin to live differently. You begin to live differently. The loop in your head changes. So you don't have all this negative talk. Like the loop in my head is constantly positive. I'm constantly amused by things, which, makes
so
me smile inside. And like the things that used to bother me or get me down or make me sort of irritated affect me like that anymore. Like I don't even get ruffled by that, because I just am, showing up as who I am, and staying in that space, and having that good connection with myself. And so I just am a little bit amused when things like that are going on around me, but I don't get sucked into that drama anymore. Yeah. Like the chaos can happen, and I don't have to participate, and I don't, but it's
life goes on.
Right, that's right. Life goes on, and I'm still present, and I'm still there, and it's really, and there have been some very challenging situations. Yeah. Life is not a bed of roses, but I am a super happy person at this point. And I wasn't there when I first started, but from week 2 on, I started noticing I was like more and more things were building within me, and I was like building that strong connection again to myself, and staying very connected. And the more and more I did that, the more you call that raise your vibration, right? So the more I did that, the better I felt, and the more I was able to be able to show up that way with other people in my life, and things that were happening that were tragic, or that we would view as very sad and very heavy. Those kinds of things. Those things still happened in my life the whole entire time I was in the program, and continue to. But the way that I show up and deal with it is so much different, that we can take something that was not necessarily is something that I would have thought was terrible or tragic or whatever, and turn it around into a beautiful experience, and something that we learn and we grow, and we are there to help one another out. And that resonated with me, like to be able to show up and be supportive of people, and not just be, sort of wallow in that sadness for a really long time.
Right.
So this program teaches you how to, elevate during those times, so that you can, not only help yourself, but also the people around you. And I really, in my line of work, in my career, that was very important.
Yeah. Yeah. Say more about that.
And back to, our life isn't necessarily like that. It doesn't mean that things don't come at you that are, could be challenging. It just means that you handle it differently. And it means that you show up differently, and you have tools, and you have knowledge about yourself, and you have, your connection to yourself that, sort of takes you through those times, if you will, in a way that I've never had, in a way that we aren't taught. You started off by saying, who's this program for? This program is for every single person. I mean, I can't think of anybody that couldn't benefit.
Yeah, this is everyone. I felt as a person, I'm like going, I'm successful, and yet on the inside, and I'm fun, and on the inside, I'm always thinking to myself, since the time I was a kid, I don't know, I feel like we're missing the instruction manual on a big part of how to be a person. And something in me my whole life, I knew it from the time I was a little kid. I just thought, everybody's doing stuff that seems they're doing it, and I don't think they think it makes sense either. I could see in the adults and the people around me, I think they all think something's off too, but I didn't know what it was, and it really ended up being a quest to sort of like this instruction manual that was never given to any of us. That's why I did years and years and years of developing it and being my own guinea pig. And then for years, there were plenty of clients that were, first in line for that before I brought it to the masses. But Theresa, I love what you're saying about that. This stuff just isn't, we don't have emotional education as our primary educational process for being a person. We don't. So Theresa, one of the things that I really love that you got really early on, and you remembered it from our consultation call, which was, I had said to you that you really, in this transformation, you don't unlearn it, right? That it becomes a part of you, becomes automated. And I would love for you to talk about just your take on what that means and how that showed up in your life for other people to have a connection to, because we're so used to like this constant having to work on ourselves, and that there's always going to be something to do like that. So how would you, what's your perspective on that?
So it was so foreign to me, that idea of how you don't unlearn it. And when you've struggled your entire life with your weight, how it could be that easy or that simplistic. But it's amazing, because it really is that simplistic. Like, I don't think about it. And each week, like extra body mass, weight, whatever you want to refer to it, is melting off my body. And I'm not thinking about it. I'm not going to the gym and exercising, like a fanatic. I'm not doing things that, in the past I would restrict my calories, and I would only eat certain foods, and I really diligently, I would get to a certain point and I would just hit a wall, and I didn't seem to be able to get past that wall. And with the things that I learned, particularly in week 2, in building a relationship with myself, what I have been able to do is, like with my adult emotional self in charge, make decisions for myself that are beneficial for my body, and relying on my own body wisdom to get me to the ideal weight for my particular body. So it's not about a number per se. It's about how you feel and how you operate within your body. And that once you learn it, I can say this because now I'm several weeks past week 2. I mean, we're months past week 2. I continue to lose excess mass on my body. And it's just not even, and I'm not even worried that it's not going to happen. Like, I just know it's going to keep going in that direction, because that's what it started doing from the very beginning. So what you mean by unlearn is, in my mind, is that once you have, the tools and the methodology learned in terms of how to go about living your life, so to speak, in a way that's optimal for you, you just automatically are set up with like the things that you need to get yourself to where you want to go. Be it any area, not just weight loss, but in any area of your life. And as you know, it's impacted all areas of my life. But, speaking about that, I can't imagine ever going back to how I lived, because it's just not a part of my makeup anymore. I show up differently. I eat more than I ever have on any sort of, program that I have tried it all. I mean, without naming names, I have done everything short of weight loss surgery. I really have. I mean, hypnosis, like I went the, yoga therapy route. I've done, all kinds of programs that are very restrictive. I've done eat their food programs. Like, I've done everything and was never able to lose. I just thought, finally I was giving up. Like, this is my cross to bear. But I get now what what the methodology that I've learned, I get how that will carry through the rest of my life. And I never will have to worry about my weight or think about it. It's not even an issue. And I'm not actively thinking about the actual weight loss part. I just know it's happening. And I am, I make food choices and that are beneficial for my body, but I'm not restrictive. I eat like what I want. And as I've said before, I'm not eating cupcakes for breakfast or anything like that. Before I thought I was eating decently well. I thought I was eating very healthy before, and I just wasn't able to get that, to lose weight in that manner.
Yeah. And Theresa, for people who this is what I loved about Theresa, everyone, is this is what she really wanted, right? She wanted to not have to get down the ability. She wanted to not have the difficult, arduous road and focus and effort to just allow herself to be her natural self. She was willing to not go the hard route. And yet, Theresa, we're so conditioned for all of the things that one needs to do. Us women are the world-class experts on knowing everything that we should do to be thinner and fit and everything. What do you think it was about this shift for you that made it so those things they're basically irrelevant? Because I think this is something that people they really would find a hard time believing that they don't have to do all of those things. But it's more than that. It's a kind of experience, and it's a kind of perspective. And what would you say? And feel free to share with people what it is. I want people to learn about it here.
So what it is I think that I have a completely different mindset about weight loss. I used to believe those conditioned thoughts of weight loss is hard, weight loss is going to be painful, weight loss is going to take time, weight loss is always going to be a struggle, and it's just something that maybe I was genetically set up to be this size, that sort of thing. Even though I was unhappy inside about all of that, those beliefs kept those pounds on my body. Absolutely. So it's about a complete mindset change in the way that you think about yourself. We talk about there's a loop in our head and about the thoughts that go through our head. And when I used to get out of bed every single morning, I would think, oh my gosh, the first thought was, I'm in this heavy, large body, and how am I ever going to get this smaller? It was just this constant burden in my head. So I don't have that anymore. I have, when I get out of bed, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do for the day, or something that was interesting that happened yesterday, or that loop in my head has completely changed. And I don't, think about that anymore. So it's a complete 100% mindset change. Let go of some of those beliefs and ideals and things that you've been conditioned, or things that you've learned, or things that you, have kept you in that place. And I can see now, and I was thinking about this a few days ago, I can see now how people have struggled that even follow plans very closely and are very strict. I can see why they struggle, because there's that emotional component that goes along with it. And I always would go to professionals and say, I feel like I have these blocks that I need to work through, and I can't get through these blocks, and I don't know what it is, but what is it that's keeping this weight on my body? How is it serving me? So we uncovered all of that. All of that was dissolved. And with that, it's then the losing excess mass becomes effortless. And it really has become effortless. My husband was saying to me this morning, you're shrinking every week. And I said, I know, isn't it fantastic? And I will continue to shrink every week until I get to where my body is very comfortable, and I'm, where I need to be, where I want to be, where I desire to be.
Theresa, I love. Oh, go ahead. No, finish.
Oh, yeah. What's healthy for me? I just want to be. That's my goal, is to live in a healthy body where I have lots of energy. And of course, losing excess mass increases that all the time. But I am telling you, and this, we've talked about this. Exercise has somewhat become a part of my life. I walk here and there, and I do a little bit yoga, and I'm slowly increasing that a little bit. But this whole entire time, I've dropped considerable amount of weight, 3 to 4 sizes. I'm not sure what that is pound-wise, because I don't get on the scale and weigh myself, because that number sort of actually, that number probably wouldn't even mess with my mind anymore, but it definitely did in the future or in the past. So I just, I just know the direction I'm going in, and it feels right. And it feels like that's who I am.
Exactly. And Theresa, I mean, we're really talking about a radical concept, because there is this whole industry, and again, been there, done that, everything. I mean, since the time I was a little girl, always living in that focus of my body and the prison of it, no matter. And I know for any of you, if it's 10 pounds or 5, or it doesn't even, if it's 50, whatever it is, Theresa's really referring to that your whole experience is in that you're living life through that lens of not being able to be your natural self. And she's really speaking to something very important about all, there are some of you will be watching this. There are people, we all know, we've been them. You could follow that diet. I mean, you could you're like painstakingly following this diet. You're not happy about it, but you're doing it. You could be exercising like a fanatic. You can be on all the supplements. You could be doing everything. And Theresa's really referring to that. There is something else that weight is about. So people will feel like they're weight loss resistant, and then they'll start doing more clinical things to try to fix that. And what Theresa's really speaking to is the emotional component that needed to grow for her. And what I want to ask you, Theresa, is, having been conditioned like all of us are with that other stuff, and in the initial in our initial kickoff together, when I really coached you and asked you to be willing to be open to a completely new way of thinking about it and being, why do you think you were so willing? Because I was saying some pretty really paradigm shifting things. Why do you think you were so willing to absolutely embrace that the way you did? Because that has clearly led to this dissolving of this weight. But what was it about that?
So what it was about was, I figured in my head, like, I had tried everything, it didn't work, but I wasn't ready to give up on myself. I had that belief that, and I was taking a leap of faith, quite frankly. I mean, I was just taking a leap of faith that this would be something that would work. And when you said those words to me, I trusted that. And I thought, I mean, and my friends still are shocked. Those things are completely gone with it. I look at food very differently. I eat to nourish my body, and it works. And I eat delicious food. It's really good, and I eat more than I ever did. And I still dissolve the weight. But I think that, it's so simple, and it's such a freedom from all of that, conditioning and beliefs, the way that we have come to think. A lot of years practice, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. How did I get here? How am I going to, move out of this thing? So when I came to you, I mean, I really took that leap of faith, and I was more motivated to do it than I was to just not give it a try, like to just give up on myself. I mean, I had that little twinge of like, what if I fail again? Yeah. But my motivation was higher but what if I succeed this time? I mean, what if this really works for me? And I was willing to give myself that chance. And it really is. It's just like putting yourself all in. And I was all in. I did every single module. I did all the work. I called in, I asked questions, I sent in, the homework, so to speak, that we have. And I really was 100% committed to working on myself and changing that aspect of my life that was making all areas of my life not as happy as they could be. Yeah. And definitely, I struggled with just, it can't be this hard. Like, things are missing in my life, and what am I going to do about it?
Yeah. I love what you're saying. Right. It is this, because everyone, this is where, as much as I love the entire spectrum and field of psychology and spirituality, I am a very practical person at the heart of the matter. And I look at the world thinking, it is not meant to be this difficult to be a person, but we've been conditioned to believe it is. It's work to be a person. And so I love to hear what Theresa's saying, because at the same time, I really want to honor and acknowledge something that Theresa, who she is, and And what she did that's important for anybody that would be coming into the program and or considering that is, with all of her intelligence. I mean, Theresa is in her own right, a profound like healer and leader in her field and in general. But as part of her leadership of all the things that she knows and that she believes in, she did a really powerful thing, which was she was willing to be led, and which is a big important piece of letting go of needing to control everything and really being coachable, right? Really being open to a new paradigm shift. And that's really important because we've all been conditioned to, we've got so much conditioning. We've even got conditioning about getting well, losing weight, being happy. We are so chronically over conditioned on these things. And it was, Theresa was, you know this, such an exceptional, we've just had an entire blast working together because Theresa didn't question a thing. She truly just became the student. And then through that, she coaches me on things all the time, new and exciting ways that she has learned things and then reflects them back to me. So, we get to teach each other, which has been really wonderful. So I just want to acknowledge that. And, with that said, Theresa, I want to have you speak a little bit more about, the way that when I say this to all of you, when I said that you'll become so emotionally strong that you'll have an immunity to strength, you'll have an immunity to stress. And people can say, well, will I feel anything? Will I be a robot? And I say, you'll be able to be connected without being affected. And that's still kind of foreign. Like, I could have an immunity to stress. And so I want to have you talk a little bit about that. Again, that thing that gets automated into you, the way the old triggers would happen, and now it's new automation. So Theresa, whatever you want to say about that, right. I know that would be helpful for people because that sounds crazy to them too.
Well, it does sound crazy, but when you go through the program, you have those tools to, pull you through those stressful times too. You just show up differently during those stressful times. So you're more of a, practical take action kind of a person rather than having your emotions all tied up into it, which can be incapacitating and sort of leave us feeling, oh no, like, what am I going to do? And, my husband and I were talking about this a couple of days ago about how, like, we have been hit with some very, what would be called stressful issues in the past couple months with just in various areas of our life. And I didn't panic. I didn't retreat. I didn't, close myself off from everything and do those things that I would do in the past. What I did is I thought, okay, now what can we do to resolve this and how do we work through this? And also put in those things to place that for me, that helped me sort of clear my mind and take care of myself through the stress so that it doesn't affect me. It isn't a numb feeling, but it is a feeling of, it just doesn't have that impact on me anymore. It just doesn't, it used to be like it would feel heavy and it would, I just felt suppressed and I just wanted to retreat within and not deal with anything. Yeah. And now I feel we're sort of conditioned for all that too. Like, stress has to be difficult. Stress has to be hard. Well, we all experience it as, people living in the world. I mean, we're just going to be exposed to stress, but how you handle it makes all the difference in the world. How you show up and, have the tools in place. And it's the same thing with the weight loss. It's the same thing in, financial areas. It's the same thing in every aspect of our life, be it health, wealth, whatever it is, showing up differently and how we learn to show up differently, building a relationship with ourselves, staying connected to who we are. That all allows us to deal with things on a higher level, a much more adult-like level, a much more practical, a much more beneficial level, if you will. You're able to, problem solve and find solutions and, I was hit with, at tax time thinking, oh my, we didn't anticipate having as large of a tax bill as we did. And in the past, I mean, and this number was phenomenal for me. Like, I couldn't fathom, like, how are we going to come up with this money? And, what are we going to do? And we made that all work out. And not only that, in the process, I learned how to like put more away, and like, there's a whole other area that I've been working on that's like sort of leveled me up in that area of finances. So I came on board and found a solution with my husband, and we actually saved ourselves money because of that sort of thing that came into our life that we weren't anticipating. We were able to deal with it in a way that's actually, it was sort of like, I call it a blessing in disguise, because we've learned a lot from that. And we've also learned how to take care of things differently in the future so that we're not in that position again.
Yeah, you really became that, like, with this immunity to stress, meaning that the emotional training and the strength training and the methodology and the relationship with yourself that Teresa's describing, right? It doesn't mean that things don't come up. It means they're experiences. And then because you don't have the emotional chaos, right, which is the kind of thing that creates like concentration issues and develops like things like ADD for people, that emotional internal turmoil gets you you're in that zone, versus Teresa's really talking about, what's my outcome? Okay, there's an issue. I'm aware of it. And I remember this for her. She went to just focus on the outcome that she wanted and saw it as an opportunity to grow. And then through that, using her emotional adult training, being able to then like just transform at another level to become then like this great partner with your husband in the financial realm, right? Which is an area that a lot of us, are conditioned, especially women, to avoid, right? We feel overwhelmed by that. So I thought that was one of your most powerful results, was not only the outcome, Teresa, I don't know if you would agree with this, the outcome itself that you got, because that was a really big windfall that you created. You created that. But the feeling of being a powerhouse in your own emotion, in your own financial life, and what that will be for the rest of your life now.
Right, exactly. It was, my husband was obviously very appreciative of that part of my self coming out. But and I have said this before, I sort of put that stuff, I would go to work and I run a business, I have a really good career. And I would always leave that sort of money piece, that financial piece, to my husband. And I finally I thought, I want to understand what we're doing and how can I help in this process of putting money away. And you and I said, so this is the outcome that will happen as a result of me coming on board in this area, is we will put more money away in 5 years than we've put away in 30 in terms of retirement. And that's amazing to me. So I came to the program for dissolving weight, but it has affected every area of my life. And, the financial piece, the relationship piece, like with my husband and with others, like how that, and the ripple effect that it has on other people. Like, I feel like that's been a positive thing for them as well. So in terms of, because I'm just noticing things, particularly in my husband, like how we relate to one another is very different. It's like we're back to that stage of really like more paying attention to one another and communicating much better. And just it just has helped like every aspect of my life. And yeah, I was saying I came on to dissolve weight, but I had no idea it would affect every other area of my life equally as well. And I haven't even spoken about health in general.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Teresa. Add to that.
So in my age, we're conditioned to be, believe that menopause is hard and, all these things, right? So I haven't had any of that. I feel like completely healthy in my body. I actually feel better than I did when I was much younger. I feel so much better because, I've just figured out what foods work for me to eat beneficial foods. I figured out, how to supplement my body to get some nutrients that I personally need. But my health is like terrific. So I feel good about that.
Well, everyone, what Teresa's really she's connecting so many dots for us today. So on one hand, we're looking at how she grew as an emotional adult, even more than she already was as a person. And then that immunity to stress, that immunity to things that would otherwise be emotionally challenging, where we don't even realize, but we avoid, right? We have a emotional strategy of avoiding. where she then stepped up and just decided, I'm going to be involved and be responsible for an area of my life. And this was the financial piece, right? Which we can all imagine that the more we have the emotional strength to be fully responsible for our financial life or any part of it, what is possible there. But then adding to that, again, I'm having Theresa share this with all of you because I know it will make more sense than if I really were to say to you all that every area of your life will be impacted. And by shifting out of the emotional weight that we all have carried from our conditioning and our culture into having that emotional strength, it really is an anti-aging process, because what's happening is when we don't have a certain level of emotional strength and we happen to be very sensitive, intuitive people, we're getting weighted down. Things are changing. We're literally aging from the wear and tear, which is all about our emotional foundation. So I'm so happy for Theresa to bring this piece up, because going through perimenopause, going through menopause, all the things that all of us will do, what Theresa's really sharing with us is that when you have this level really of emotional strength and this relationship with yourself, all of these things, that's the outcome of it, is you have this emotional empowerment, you have the energy, then in many ways you are truly reversing the effects of when you didn't have that. You're literally reversing them, you're reverse aging, and you're slowing down a process that, while we can't change gravity, we're slowing down a process of being worn out by life, so that by the time we are in a certain age, then everybody's falling apart. And this makes it so that you have a whole different foundation as a person, so that you could literally feel better than you did when you were 30, because at 30 you still might not have had this emotional strength, more than likely. So is that what you're referring to, Theresa, as well?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I always say, and I've said this numerous times to other people and to you, that I wish I had this when I was a young adult, because I think I would have, I'm so grateful that I have it now and so happy I have it now. But if I'd had it from a young adult on, I would just be, I wouldn't have struggled as long as I did. I just wouldn't have had that struggle in many areas of my life. And, I was thinking as you were talking, I thought, it's sort of like when you're it's hard to imagine how you could get to this level when you're not there yet. But it's so, because you think about, I'm already tired, I have so much work to do, all that mindset that comes in, all that loop that comes in your head of our beliefs. But what happens is you actually find you have all the time to do everything that you want to work on, and the way you want to show up in your life. You have all the time you need to do that, and it's so crazy because you're focusing on all these areas of your life. Like some of them I was leaving out before, but yet I feel like I have more time and more freedom than I ever did before. So it's sort of like, so you just make everything that much more like time, and you just make the most of everything that you have. So it just doesn't take the amount of time that you think it's going to take in your head before you've learned how to use the tools and learned how to show up with your adult emotional self on board.
Yeah. So Theresa, you're making an amazing point, because it's, and I know we've talked about this, that when we say we're younger, right, and we've got essentially a younger body and all those things that go along with that, we might have some more energy. But as time is going on, and we are a culture of people who were never emotionally trained, right? We had whatever training came from our family of origin, and then the people around us and their emotional dynamics. And so your body is literally changing its health and chemistry as time is going on, and you don't have that emotional training that now Theresa it's just a part of who she is now. So that is creating that wear and tear. It is changing what you'll do with your life. You will avoid things, or you won't step into things. And even if you're really driven, you're accomplishing, our clients are very, very accomplished, there's still a barrier to that full potential. And so what Theresa's really saying is, not only will you do more of the things that you want to, But when you feel this way, you do them with ease. There's still effort and application of yourself, but you do them with ease. And then the way that you feel while you're doing everything isn't like work, and it isn't tiring. So then you're getting to do a bunch of stuff without feeling the wear and tear of it. So you're getting, I mean, this is just the laws of physics, but it really does work that way. When you're emotionally empowered, time is different, effort is different, and you end up, they say time is relative. You really do. Teresa's making a very important point that I wouldn't have made, is that you're changing your whole experience of time, and therefore you're gaining it. And this is why we do call the program the Live Your Potential program, because you're literally maximizing your experience of each moment. It's really something. It's really something. It's quite fun, huh, Theresa?
It is. It's really, this is the way to live, I'm telling you. Like, I went from the woman that was just thinking, is this all there is? And just not happy personally with, a lot of things, and just sort of had lost my joy in my life, if you will. I mean, I had moments, but I wasn't showing up that way every day. And now it's completely different. I'm finding like amusement and all sorts of things. And I just don't struggle. I don't struggle. I live very effortlessly and happily, and I'm enjoying being very present. And that's one thing that this program teaches you, is just to be very present wherever you are, and just enjoy what's in front of you, and then move along, instead of always thinking about, something else or yesterday, or, it's good to be contemplative, but, it's not like you miss out on living now. Right. So I really want to live now and be present and enjoy those people. And so that has just added a richness to my life that I never could have imagined. So it's amazing.
I love that. Yeah. And Teresa's also, when you say, Theresa, that about being present, what is really cool is, because we've all heard, be present, but there's a methodology to being present, right? It's different than maybe sitting in a field of daisies, saying Om, which is all good stuff. But I think a lot of people want that. And what we know, there are literal mechanics to being able to do that. And then at the same time, they're also very simple and very fun and practical, because again, I feel like if things aren't practical, and as a psychologist, I know they need to be stuff that people would really want to do and can do in their daily life. So I'm not a big meditator as a person, but my life is a meditation because of this methodology. And so it's something for you to all know, that it can happen the way that the way you're going to apply this is going to be your own unique experience of it. So it's totally you, right? It'll be the way Theresa applies the methodology is unique to her. And it's about it becoming your methodology. And that's really exciting. So Theresa, a few more points I want to check in on, which is something that you and I have talked about recently, which I love learning new things each week. And this concept of when the way that people feel like they should know how to do stuff, right? In this world now where there's so much out there, we have such an amazing array of access. We can scrub the whole internet. We can listen to every podcast. It's just a phenomenal time in human history for information. And it's a phenomenal time for empowerment. But at the same time, people I think we've never had more information about being healthy and empowered. And our numbers are going up. The numbers of anxiety in this country, addiction, weight and eating disorders, obesity, divorce, you name it, autoimmune disorders, people are really struggling. So it's a kind of an interesting paradox in this age of everything available to us. So what do you think about that concept? Because I even remember you saying this to me in our first conversation. I feel like I know what to do, and I should know what to do. And so what do you think about for people that feel like they know a lot of stuff, but they feel like they should be able to do it, so they might not get themselves the help that they need, the leadership that they need? What are your thoughts on that?
So I feel like I was one of those people. I had read everything, had been online, was constantly reading about things, constantly trying new things with myself. I feel like until you learn the methodology going through this program, and your mindset changes, and emotional the emotional experiences, if you will, the emotional conditioning, if you will, that led me particularly to right where I was. I tried everything to dissolve that, and it just, first you have to be able to identify it, which is really good, because this is so detailed. This program is so detailed that you figure out exactly where you're stuck, if you will, where you have blocks, where you have some emotional things. And those areas, which I think are very scary for some people, because sometimes it's built around protection of ourselves and how we've learned to cope. And that was definitely my experience. My extra weight on my body definitely had to do with protection. But and it's different for everyone, I can see. But for me in particular, I had read everything and was still not able to apply it and change things, because there was that underlying emotional component that just wasn't being addressed. And I think that, with the methodology that you learn, you just show up differently. You're able to work through those things that have kept you from, living as well as you could, and dissolving all the areas of your beliefs or your conditioning or the way you show up that aren't working for you and that aren't, in your best interest. They aren't really who you are. They're just what we've been taught and what we've been told. And I think that this program in particular gets to the bottom of that and just figures out okay, here's where you are. Here's your foundation. Let's figure out who you are and let's build your foundation, build from there and recondition, repattern, do everything that you've thought was how to live your life, in the way that we were shown. There just wasn't a manual on that. So I just don't think that I would still struggle if I was still trying to read, still trying to help myself. Even if I tried to read something that had to do with your program in particular, if I was reading something, that would still be a different experience for me than actually actively participating in this program. So that active participation with phone calls, with, sending in assignments and having someone review those and going over and looking at issues in more detail, all of those things are very active and they're very important in figuring out, who you are, where you want to go, that sort of thing. And in terms of developing yourself again in your best possible way. And so there's no way you could read that in a book. I mean, I just don't feel for me, I could pick it up and read it in a book, look at it online. It's without that active participation with people that guide you, that know what they're doing, and know how to get in there and get to, I've said this a lot of times, many programs scratch the surface. This gets in deep and actually changes all of the things so that you truly do have a transformation.
I love that, Theresa. When you say the word details, and this is why I love talking to you, because I even forget things that I would want to share with all of you. And Theresa's talking about these details. And Theresa, so that really speaks to the part about where, for people that really feel like they know their issues, right? And you're working on, and you feel like you know them, but you're close to it and you know the concepts. But what I really appreciate you saying is that there are so many details that most people don't look at it, because we are, as people, deeply detailed people. There is tons of minutia about who we are. And if we don't look at that and understand it, then that could be the very areas where we're caught up. And so, Theresa, there's a lot of online programs out there. People do a lot of self-guided, and a great part of the program there's a chunk of this self-guidance. How important, when you mentioned about the guidance, how important was that part for you in order for somebody like myself or my coaches to be able to see those details that you were not necessarily even aware of, even though you've studied this and yourself at length?
So that part of the program where I had the benefit of the coaches and the calls and that active participation and that active experience with with you and the coaches was extremely important to me, because I consider myself, a relatively smart girl, and I wasn't able to figure out those things or even see them. And sometimes when you're in that state of, you've been in that way of being for so long, you don't even notice that there are things that are preventing you from moving forward. You can't even figure that out within yourself, because sometimes you don't even want to look at it, because it's like, it could be painful. It could be like a strategy that you've learned. I think I can see a lot of people getting stuck on that. And the coaches gently dig in there and figure it out so that you can, move past that. And it makes you stop and really think about things and look at things and make change, that awareness, if you will, is brought up a lot by the coaches, instead of just, doing this, doing the work and sending it in and that sort of thing. But getting that feedback was a completely important part of the program.
You really make me think of something, Theresa, which is, thank you for saying the gentle part, because I know, this is a very powerful transformation, and we take it very seriously because we're producing outcomes at the end, right? It's about the outcome, and the team is absolutely as invested. We want to be high-fiving, right, as much as possible about even bigger outcomes than our clients could ever expect or we could ever explain to them. And so Theresa, when you said about the gentle part, so I think that's important for everybody to know, because there is a lot of protection that we've all used. And it's an important part of being a person, that when we don't know how to do something, or we're just at whatever level we're at and we've created a strategy for life, I think sometimes people can be a little subconsciously thinking, I'm going to take that away from them, right? Or I don't want to, I've had clients, I'm so ready to change, but I'm afraid to lose what's familiar. I'm afraid to let go of what I know. And also what is often there is, I'm afraid for somebody to really see the me that I believe is horrible, and all of these stories that we've all been conditioned for, because we're conditioned that when we feel something's wrong with us, we really, really make that a mantra, right? There is something wrong. Somebody's going to figure this out. Somebody's going to see that I don't really have it all together, and then they're going to leave, or they're not going to accept me. So the survival skill of masking and hiding is one that we do use. And from what Theresa said, I want everyone to know that when you go into a program like this, there is a safety, because it's a gentle place to be, even though it's a powerful place to be, that we are going to gently allow the parts of you that we need to develop, to come up, to be exposed, and build on your very amazing strengths. And that there's nothing, and Theresa, I think you would agree with this, there's nothing horrible that we're going to find, right? It's actually the opposite of that. And is it what, when I say, Theresa, there's nothing horrible that we would find, what would you say to that?
I would say that's absolutely the truth. We're not looking, we are who we are, and we're all I believe, as people, we're all wonderful, and we all come to this, world with strengths and with, personalities and who we are. So it just makes you that much better and that much closer. And if you stay closer to who you are in terms of how you show up in your life, you definitely will bring about more happiness. I remember that one of those first things that I was learning was when you're disconnected from yourself, it just feels uneasy. It feels it doesn't feel good. And so you bring out the strengths. We all know they're there, and it's sort of sifting through all of that stuff we've built up, and just it's sort of finding that diamond in the rough, if you will, and it's whoa, there we are. And it's all good. And you just expand from there and just, build on those things, from there. And so, yeah, it's extremely gentle. It never felt threatening. I never felt, oh my gosh, I don't want to talk about this part of me. All of that, and I've been on calls with various people that are working on different aspects of their life. It's all very respectful, loving, gentle, but also very real. Like, this is what's going on, and how do we move forward from here? And I appreciated that so much.
That's right.
Because
Theresa.
it made me feel at ease. It made me feel like I could share with other people very openly. And I would consider myself extremely private. Like, I'm very private. The fact that I'm doing this interview is a complete the complete idea that, you know, I have changed somewhat in how I show up, because I'm very comfortable, you know, talking to people, but I am very private. I don't really want other people knowing what's going on with me. And I think sometimes when we have areas of our life where we feel like sort of not as happy with, or sort of ashamed, or we want to show up as a leader in the world, for, you know, and many people that are running businesses are definite leaders in the world, and want to show up that way. It's sort of, it's viewed as a weakness to like have some issues, but it really isn't. It's like, we all have these things, and I don't see that as a weakness. I see that as like, you know, this is something we're going to work through and move on. And it becomes a non-issue, just like my weight became a non-issue for me. It's just, you know, one of those things that you just take that leap of faith, know you're going to be fine, and just do the steps to, you know, transform yourself in every way possible and make your life better. But it's like believing in yourself that you can do that. And there's not a person that it can't benefit. There's not a person that can't do that. You know, it just is very workable and very doable for everyone.
I love that, Theresa. You're talking about us being people often say we're a work in progress. I don't love the word work. We're in development, right? And the mindset of development is a building mindset, right? It's a very different thing than I've got so many things wrong with me. And so what Theresa, what you just said is important, that there is, I know for many people, having tried everything, having for most of their lives maybe just felt completely defective, and like the worst thing that ever happened to them was being them, right? And there's just so much work to do. That part about how this can work for literally anyone, any issues, conditions, health, marital, relational. Just speak to why you feel that it literally can work for. Obviously, it means they need to follow the program. Right. But that is a big barrier, I think, for many people that just feel not only am I defective, but I'm defective at getting that transforming.
Right. I feel like there is no one defective in this world. There really isn't. I mean, there's no one that is in that spot where, like, when you figure out like where that conditioning came in, that you were defective, when that is illuminated, if you will, you will not, that will go by the wayside too. Just like my weight is dissolving, that thought that you are defective will go by the wayside by doing the program. It will happen that way. It's like, it's the way it's designed, and it's the way that we live our lives as who we are. And we are not born defective. We may have things happen to us. We may have conditioning. We may have behavior. We may have had people say horrible things to us about, you know, where we are and what they didn't like, pointing out all of our flaws, you know, that sort of thing. I don't believe any of that. I mean, we are not born defective, and you are not defective. No matter what you think, that will all change. And, you know, it was very cool participating in the calls and watching people who came in with that view of themselves, that they really were very hard on themselves and very down on themselves, and even the way they carried themselves, like you see them in the interviews, because we do these FaceTime calls, and you can see them like, you know, shoulders slumped, head down, you know, just the way that they carried themselves. And then you see them fast forward, you know, a month and a half, and they're looking like up and excited and have a new career, one of them, and, you know, just different things. It's like, wow, that's what it's like to live. They're not defective. And, you know, it just is like, that whole idea is absurd. We're just not defective people. Everyone can benefit. And when you lose that conditioning and you dissolve that conditioning, just as I dissolve the idea that I am, you know, destined to be, you know, an overweight, you know, woman, it's the same idea, no matter whatever issue you're dealing with, be it, you know, you don't feel like great about yourself, or you have extra pounds on your body, or you've had this drug addiction for years, like, and you feel like unworthy of, you know, a good life. Everybody is worthy of a good life. Everybody is meant to live a great life. Everybody is meant to live happily and at ease in life. This struggle is, I mean, think of the struggles. I think of the struggles as lessons learned, and I don't have to go back there because I have this methodology that we talked about earlier that cannot be unlearned. And it's the same thing for people that, you know, feel like they are defective. You will learn new methodology and your mind will not even go there anymore. Those thoughts will be completely gone. And you want that for everybody. I mean, I wish that for everybody.
Absolutely. And Theresa, you hit on an important thing, which is many things, which is it's built into this program, the understanding that people will come into it maybe feeling like it can't work for them. And it's already built in to take care of that. So even if that is there, and we want you to believe that it can, which will be more helpful, it's already built in for it to take care of that. There's every single thing that could have potentially gotten in someone's way is built into the program. That's why it's very, very comprehensive. And you cannot fail. It's literally fail safe. It is all of those things that we all think about that could get in our way are built in there for you. And we won't let that happen anyway. The team is going to really, truly pull you through any barrier that's there. And that's, again, one of our favorite parts because we get to then enjoy the next breakthrough. And again, we get to high five, and then it's a beautiful, beautiful group effort and family and all of these things. So, Theresa, before I let you go, I want to just have you also speak to this paradigm shift of people used to doing the different conventional methodologies, going to therapists, paying the copay, going to the doctor, doing the doctor's visits, going, doing all these different things in the piecemeal, right? Going to the pharmacy, taking the medication, the whole kind of piecemeal approach. You might have your 15 providers in some cases. We talk to people that they've got an entire team, which is completely fine. And, these are all sovereign choices we want everybody to make in their life. But where there's this whole web of things people are doing, and they're doing it, and it's kind of got an open-ended experience to it, and their life is now built around fixing these issues. And it's a different thing. It's a pay-as-you-go kind of experience versus somebody believing that in one fell swoop, an entire new foundation can be put under you. So that's a different thing. And it's a different investment. It'd be like going to the gym and say, I would like to pay to be physically fit for the rest of my life. And what will that cost me right now? Like kind of thing. So what would you say about that shift for people about making an investment in more of a comprehensive transformation?
So I think, I was one of those people on the fence about even making the investment because I just didn't want to pay for something else that possibly wasn't going to work for me. I did, there's two pieces to that. Like the first part is this just accelerates you in a way that some of those other things, like you could go to counseling for years and years and years and never get what I got in 3 months, or even in the first couple of weeks, honestly. And I've done that. I mean, I've been there, done that. I wasn't able to, with a variety of, types of help. And it feels like it's this long-term, like, it's sort of like taking a medication where it sort of like alleviates the symptoms, but it doesn't fix the problem, if you will. And that's what this is like. You get in there and you fix whatever is going on with you so that you can move forward. I say it's the best money I ever spent. And in the beginning, I was definitely apprehensive. I was like, wow, I don't know, and what if I spend this and it doesn't work for me? But I just, again, took that leap of faith and said, you know what? I'm going to give it my all and I'm going to do this. And it's, I'm going to learn some things here. And it was worth it. I mean, just jump in and do it. And it's like, it's the best money you could spend on yourself. And it's hard for people to wrap their minds around that, sometimes I think, but you're saying that's a good analogy of like, instead of, paying for a gym membership or, one-time fee and you get the membership for the rest of your life. I mean, this is like, you get these tools and how to live for the rest of your life, which is something I don't know anybody else doing this sort of work. I've looked at everything out there. And like I said earlier, it scratches the surface, but it doesn't get in there deep and make the changes. So it's just a way to accelerate yourself super fast. For me, being a businesswoman and just how I am in my life, I have a child and I'm busy. I have a husband. And I think I wanted that sort of, I mean, who wouldn't want that sort of thing? It's like you can get all of this done and all of the things taken care of in this amount of time. And it's not going to take you years and it doesn't have to draw out. You can just keep going. There was a part in the program, I think it was like week 9. And I was just like, I feel like I've just been launched from the mothership. I was just like doing my thing and I'm supposed to be listening to the modules and doing my work. And I'm like, hey, I'm off living my life, people. But I would have to reel myself back in and, wait, you're still learning, girl. Like, keep going. But it was just, that was so cool because I just felt like, wow, I am off doing my own thing, enjoying my life. And it truly was. I mean, back to the money part, I was one of those people just thinking, wow, okay, I'm going to have to spend some money for this. But it was it was worth every penny and then some.
Theresa, when you said to me, I know you would approve of this. I feel so good that I'm not doing any modules right now. And I was like, great, because we really just want the outcome. The modules,
That's right. That's right.
Right? It was so good. And I love that Theresa could see that and we could joke about it. And she still wanted to learn and grow and get the rest of it. But that was a great moment. Like, because when sometimes people say, I didn't get all my modules done this week. I was like, how are you feeling? Right? Is that, do we have this outcome happening? And it's very entertaining. It's like, these are a means to an end. But the fact is, if you're feeling fabulous at whatever point, it's still your process. It's about you getting the outcomes that you want as a person. So, Theresa, I'm going to ask you one last piece about the finances. What value do you think, if we could sit here and calculate all day, what value would you assign like this to be worth for the rest of your life? If you were to put a dollar value.
I have no idea.
Even being conservative.
Right. I mean, I have no idea how to put a dollar value on it. It's just, I mean, I think about, if you added up years and years of counseling that still wouldn't get to the issues, I mean, that would be several thousands of dollars. And that's just a tricky thing. I mean, I know, I paid a good amount of money for this and it was, worth every penny. I feel like, I don't know how to put a value on it. It's like some things are priceless, right? This definitely feels priceless to me. And like, you just want to, whatever it takes, but I get that piece. If somebody's sitting on the fence trying to make a decision about whether or not to do it, and I actually have a friend there, that I'm talking to, and it's hard to put that value amount on what exactly you will get out of it, because it will change your life in ways that you never even imagined possible. And that's worth so much to me. And it was definitely less costly than everything I've tried combined. I mean, I wish I had found this first so I didn't have to do all that other stuff that I was, still seeking just to help myself. This would have been the way to go.
It makes me think of something about people will say, I've already spent so much. And it really is about looking ahead to say, what will be the cost of continuing on that route? So I really appreciate what you're saying, Theresa, about it changes your life on so many levels that, and it was designed to. I wanted to give people freedom and in my mind, give them sort of like a lifetime extra sort of $1 million of value, meaning the days of their life and whatever that dollar amount might be, but that it felt like that to them, that it felt like that they'd won the lottery that way. So Theresa, I want to just thank you from the bottom of my heart for being my client, for now just being a soul sister, being leaders in the desire to really help our fellow man evolve, and to just have just received what I wanted to give you, but then just you have given me so much. That this is the beautiful part about what I just want to say is you've given everybody today in this interview so much of yourself, and you have changed my life in so many ways. I love you. I am so grateful that I get to be on this journey with you as a person. And there really are no words for how much I just regard you, respect you, appreciate you. And I'm just so excited about you as a person and what you're going to be doing, with the rest of your life. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. I have said that so many times, right? I was thinking, how do you thank someone who has completely transformed your life? How do you thank someone who's helped you in ways that you didn't even know were possible? And so I appreciate and love you so much. And this whole program is something I feel very passionate about. And that I think I can't imagine I would still be in that same spot I was, 3 months ago had I not done this. And I just feel every day, I feel like that gratitude when I wake up of like, I found something to help myself. I took that leap of faith and I helped myself. And here I am, like living life, much more fully. The name is so appropriate. Live your life,
live your full
fully,
potential. Yeah.
Your full potential. It's just, it's something I'm super thankful to you for, and for your designing a program, if you will, for how we live and how we move through life. And, something that's so comprehensive and so intricately thought out and gets into every aspect of our lives to have us live, a full, happy life and show up differently. It's like, it's hard to like figure out, find those words. And I talk for a living, right? It's hard to find those words to adequately, thank you and express how differently I feel and how much it's helped my life and how much it's changed my life. Thank you.
On that note, so everyone, I just really also appreciate your attention and hanging out with Theresa and I as we just talk about stuff that we are really both very passionate about. And for any of you that any of this resonates with and feel like you might want to be able to have the kind of experience that Theresa has had, not only in the program and enjoying that process, but being able to live that way for the rest of your life, know that it's a simple consultation phone call that we would do. And it really is an exploration and a discovery process. And so don't hesitate if you want to learn more, have a conversation with me and allow me to learn a bit about you and what might be possible. So, and if there are any questions, feel free to post them here and we'll answer them. And I'll put the link in order to be able to book a call. And if that's not where you are right now, Theresa and I both just want to wish you just so much health and well-being and strength and hope and for all of you to be able to live your full potential every day. Thank you.